I'm Mel Thuris. This is another episode of Fearless Singer, and this podcast is quite inspired. And basically, it's going to be around the topic of how do we create that childlike wonder, magic in our daily lives as adults that have to worry about how to pay mortgages, rent, pay taxes, think about the things like, doing your washing, ducking up the road, in between breaks to get your weekly shop at Aldi, all those humdrum things, or even just, those moments of lethargy or moments of like, or scrolling, that kind of thing. How do we reignite that childlike wonder and magic? And I just want to take you through a little bit of a journey of sorts, or just I guess my experience around all of this. And the reason why this is prompted and completely inspired is because I'm redoing an online business course that I bought many, many moons ago, Marie Forleo Business School. And I'm starting back, at module 1. And, she talks about this idea of, just getting really, really clear on, what your service is, what your strengths are, what are your passions. And I think that is one of my strengths, and I'm not going to take full credit for it because I feel like it's very much been a part of my upbringing. But one of my strengths is allowing people to, or not even allowing, it's not like I'm giving permission, but just prompting the people that are in my circle, in my sphere, to dream bigger, and that sounds really kind of a little bit poncy, but you know what I mean. It's to just think beyond, but beyond what we're seeing in front of us, to know that, and it's not even on that kind of, success, like dreaming of big success. It's also thinking beyond the 3D and sort of being open to the possibility of this life being quite magical. That they're, to pick up a children's book and read it and really allow yourself to, to be shift into that paradigm, that dream world, that imagination, and to be in our imagination a little bit more. Because, otherwise I feel like sometimes we do get lost in this, in the other side of that, which is, like I just said before, I listed off all the adult things that we do. And then we get to a point where, our bodies feel tired, we get cantankerous, there's something off, but we just don't know what it is. We can't quite put our finger on it. And, this is like a topic that needs to be spoken about sensitively, because of course I'm a big believer in Western science, and there is the real issues of being having depleted levels of iron or vitamin B, or just on a very physical level, things happen, and that can often lead to other different illnesses. But I also feel like it is also this disconnection from the imagination realm. When we're not connected to it, I feel like that is also a contributing factor. That, and of course, like stress, cortisol, lifestyle. But just coming back to that connection to imagination and how powerful that is. I just want to talk you through my childhood. So I grew up in Bundaberg, in Wangara Street, and we lived very close to my grandfather and my nana and my uncle, who's not very much older than me. He's 9 months older than me, so he was like a brother. And I grew up with my brother, and in Bundy. And my granddad Lathuris, of Greek origin, he wasn't born in Greece. He was born in Bundaberg. to two Greek migrants who actually escaped Alatsata in Turkey. And Granddad was, look, I loved all my family, and they've all had played a contributing factor in my life. And not just this grandfather, Lathyrus, but also my grandfather, the non-Greek grandfather. But in particular, my granddad Lathyrus was very much a unique storyteller and was very big on, it bordered a little bit on gaslighting, but in a positive sense, in that, we'd be driving down to the basin. So that was a Sunday ritual. So my brother, myself and my uncle would pile into either the Ford Ute, legally squished in, or, this cute, I forget what the brand, it was this tiny little European sort of mini type thing that Granddad used to drive. He used to drive like 40 kilometers an hour all the way to the basin. And the only way that we could get him to speed up a bit, just to do 60 even, we'd have to convince the ghost, Mrs. May, sitting on the roof. So Mrs. May actually was a person that my grandfather was very good friends with, and she'd passed on, and but then she became this fictionalized character in our lives. So he would say things like, come on, all right, well, you've got to tell Mrs. May. The only way I can start to speed up is you've got to say, you've got to convince Mrs. May first, who's sitting on top of the roof. She's going along for the drive, and oh God, I'm saying this and I'm just thinking, oh my God, you guys must think I just had the weirdest family. They were pretty quirky, but they were just gorgeous. And so we'd have to say the mantra, we've got our power on, and that's when he would speed up. So there was that, and then, more ghost tales, so many ghost tales. Just quirky stories about, mermaids being washed up on Bagara, but, also on top of that, just very vivid accounts of his childhood, and his relationships with the people around him. So my grandfather was orphaned quite young, and he was brought up by my cousin Goldie's parents. And, just him telling the tales of, like, he was also a bit of a rebel, and he was given a lot of free rein. And I think that was because he was just so darn likable. Everyone loved him. Everyone. It just didn't matter what he did. Everyone loved him. And he was also very generous and kind, and had lots of qualities to support that likability. But he could also be very cheeky. So he would go off at night time, and, he could be out all hours of the morning. And, he had to let Auntie, so his, it was like his mum, she brought him up, let her know that when he was home. So he'd, take a little stick and just run it past, the fence. And then she'd go, okay, I can sleep now. I don't have to worry about Theo. And he would always take us into that imagination realm, with spirit stories and ghosts and, quirky supernatural things. And then, but he'd also very vividly take us into the past, his idyllic version of this beautiful past. It was just gorgeous. That's how we grew up. We were always being told stories. And then on the other side, my non-Greek side, my grandfather, Shepherd, and my grandma Shepherd would be at their farm at Pine Creek. So this is outside of Bundaberg. And again, ghost stories or stories about yetis, all those bush tales. And I know this is going to take a bit of a dark turn, but they were almost like Hans Christian Andersen type stories, because they were kind of educational at the same time, warning us of kids that used to go missing in tanks, and they'd talk about you've got to be really careful going down to the dip, where the cows would, because they were on a dairy farm, I should have added that, because you could fall down, and told us stories about kids that would get into trouble, or, you know, kids that would go down to the creek if they weren't wary would get eaten by crocodiles. So I know for some people that would be traumatic, but we loved it. You know, just also, like, you know, my grandfather told the story. I don't know if it was my grandfather or my grandmother told a story about one of their grandfathers went out to do some work on somebody's property, and he had to build like this little tiny coffin. And he was like, this is weird. Why am I building this coffin? You know, and then seeing at the corner of his eye this little yeti creature, this tiny little, you know, and thinking, oh, shit. And then got scared and got in his you know, horse and carriage and, you know, absolutely bolted. So this is how we grew up, listening to it. And I just think what a privilege. And I'm sure I'm talking to people that also grew up with some incredible stories. My dad had a friend from Blackall, and he used to bring his Filipino wife and kids to Bundaberg for holidays. And we loved Bernie, his wife from the Philippines, and she would tell us stories about, you know, people that would give birth to snakes and, you know, again, lots of mermaid stories and all sorts of just insane things. But we loved it. And I'm not saying that, you know, what do we do as adults? How do we get back into this realm of loving that curiosity, you know, into the meta, into the imagination realm? How do we get back there? You know, everyone loves a good story, for one. I wonder whether even if just, I don't know, we have more, I guess with COVID, like we maybe stopped doing, you know, even just having people over for dinners, you know, just getting people back into, like, you know, having dinners and drinks and telling ghost stories, you know, or even just starting to just write down some of those childhood memories, you know, the good ones. Let's just focus on the good ones. I'm sure we're human beings. There's a thing called polarity. Of course, there's always the shit with the good, but, you know, like focusing on some of those old folklore stories that we were told, and how it made us feel, and how can we, you know, I don't know, cultivate that for our own lives. You know, maybe it is about even writing our own stories, you know, even just for the sake of it, one week, write a children's book, write a very small children's book, and then dream about, you know, how you would, if you're an illustrator, like illustrate it, you know, draw the pictures. But if you're not, how, like, what do you imagine seeing? You know, and maybe you could, you know, collaborate with someone who is an illustrator. Or, you know, coming back to singing, you know, writing a song that's inspired by, you know, these childhood stories. And just on a really, really basic, you know, minute to minute, day to day basis. Like, how can you dive more into your imagination while you're making a cup of tea? Imagining that as, you know, you're dunking the tea bag, imagining that you're holding on to that the string, like you're a tiny person, and you're like, you know, trying to escape being dunked into the hot lava or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, allow yourself to go there. Allow your mind to go there. Like, imagine, you know, if you're looking out into the distance and there's a crane, imagine how it would feel if you're up the top. You know, maybe that would actually cause a lot of terror. But maybe imagine things that isn't going to, you know, spiral you into, you know, despair. Or, you know, what it would be like if there's a bird that's sitting on your veranda. I get a lot of birds sitting here on the veranda. It's so cute. They come, there's a butcher bird that always comes to say hello, and a magpie. They tend to, and it seems like, I don't know, generations, like they all come here. I don't feed them, by the way. I do leave a little bowl of water out there, especially when it's hot. But, you know, imagine, you know, what they're saying to you as they're singing along, you know. Just I just honestly believe that the more we can kind of cultivate that into our minute-to-minute existence, it's just gonna make us feel bloody good, you know? And just help elevate us out of that humdrum. Do you know what I mean by that? Because, oh, mate, so, you know, obviously I experienced that. You know, I have to admit something. I had a bit of a revelation yesterday. It's a big story, actually. Should I tell it? How are we going for time? Yeah, I'm going to just tell it. So, look, I'm just going to be upfront with the moral of the story, and then I'll give you the context. But I decided that I scroll too much. I'm always consuming other people's content, which is great because I think it's important to stay connected to the people that inspire you, and especially your friends and family. It's good to know things that people are up to, you know, especially if it's creative. You want to support other, especially I'm in a community of other musicians, so like I want to support other people's stuff. So, but I've decided that I've really got to give myself a time limit because it can just become all about that. Like literally I wake up in the morning, look at my phone, you know, instead of going to bed and reading, I can be on my phone up to 2 hours and then go to bed at 12 o'clock and be like, why am I so tired? You know, so, you know, putting an end to this, you know, ridiculous amount of screen time. And I realized what the source of it was, what the yearning is. And this is where I give you the context of the story. So on Friday afternoon, I've had this bloody juicer, like a, you know, fruit juicer on Facebook Marketplace for months because as you know, I've been going through this decluttering process, just to get rid of the things that I don't actually need. I went through this celery juice phase for like, you know, a hot minute, and just was like, this is ridiculous. I'm so not doing this on a regular basis, and plus it's not that amazing, and I don't really notice the health benefits. Sorry, that's probably controversial. Anyway, so it's been sitting on Facebook Marketplace. All the pieces have been, you know, stacked away in a particular cupboard, and I knew that they were there. I even found the bloody box for it. And it's been sitting on Facebook Marketplace. Finally get someone who goes, yep, I'm going to give you $100 for it. And I was like, oh, wow, that's exciting. And I'm going to come at this time. So I thought, okay, I better, like, it was close to the time that they were meant to come, 6 o'clock. It was like 5 o'clock. And I started, like, you know, getting all the bits and pieces and, you know, making sure it was all clean. And then it got to like 5:30 as I'm putting it all in the box. I'm like, oh my God, the bloody grey bin is missing from it. And so I absolutely tore this house to pieces. I looked in every single conceivable space and I couldn't freaking find this thing. And it got to 5:45. Yeah, I did a lot in that 15 minutes. And the lady turned up early. And so I had to go, oh, I'm so sorry to waste your time. This is what's happened. I just thought everything was there. I have no idea where this thing is. She must have saw how frantic I was. And I was like, just keep it. I don't need it. I don't use it. Don't worry about money. It's all good. Anyway, she was gracious to give me $50. Anyway, that's a tenuous link. That's beside the point of the story. But anyway, she left and I kept... Because she can, you know, she can still use it. She just needs to find like a little bucket. Even just one of those tall, you know, cereal Tupperware things would do the trick. Anyway, so, but I just couldn't get it out of my head. Like, where could it be? Like, I would not in my right mind throw anything like that out. I just wouldn't. I'd go, that belongs to something. And I continued to look and look and look until this place was like, it literally looked like it had been ransacked by, I don't know, the KGB. And I just got to the point where I just sort of dropped and I was like, you know what? Give up. Like, just stop searching. Stop looking. You did what you needed to do. You got rid of something that you don't use. You're actually given some money compensation for it. Who cares? Stop searching. Stop searching. And it just occurred to me that I'm forever, this is where the scrolling comes from. It's like I'm constantly searching for something, searching for the quick fix answer to, make all my big ass dreams a reality. But the reality is, I know this probably sounds a bit like egotistical, but it's not. I've invested so much money in business training and professional development and university and time. I kind of know everything. Like, I already know everything. When I'm scrolling on Facebook, a lot of the times I'm just, again, thinking like I'm trying to find that solution to, enhance Instagram growth, how do I make sure that I clear $30,000 a month because that's what I want, just those quick answers. But the reality is, I know everything that I need to know about growing a community and a business and making it profitable. At this stage, I'm pretty up there with vocal technique. I don't really need to, everything that I need to know is literally within a lot of the books that I have that are all up to date. Of course, as a voice professional, I'm going to, anything that's new, in terms of, scientific discovery, I'm going to find out about it. So yeah, at this moment of going, give up searching. You've got everything that you need. You have everything that you need in terms of intellectual resources to make things happen. But the key is always just consistent creative action. Sometimes it doesn't have to be super consistent either. Like, I don't know if you noticed, I took a week off creating content last week. So I didn't even do much in the way of Instagram posts, didn't put out a podcast episode because I just needed a break. I just felt like a bloody squeezed prune. What an analogy. But that's how I felt. I just was like, I need a week to just regenerate these ideas, so that they don't feel forced. I want them to be, inspired. Like just now, I just wrote down my mission statement and how I want to serve. And I've just gone, oh yeah, one of the things that I love to do is help people connect to the magic within their lives, which is tapping into imagination, because it makes us feel good. It energizes us. It helps us to shift perspective. There's so many benefits to it. I have to also leave you with this other story. My mum is a teacher, but she's retired now. She was such a beautiful teacher. I'd often watch her. I'd go and sit in, classes when I was a kid, I'd have like days off school sometimes and then just go and sit and watch her teach, because she was a masterclass in teaching and connecting young kids to that imagination realm. Mum was always about creating safe spaces for kids to learn, and she just did that. She's just, that's also another one of my mission, that's part of the Fearless Singer mission, is to create those safe community spaces for us to sing, and to express ourselves. But she was actually just telling me this morning, and I've heard this story before about this little girl. Mum also taught a lot of kids that were deeply, deeply traumatized. They had, came from homes with violence and sexual abuse and drug use. And this little girl was from one of those homes. And Mum noticed that she just loved to draw. And Mum said the things that she would draw were just out of this world. Like, they were otherworldly. She said that it was like angelic. There was like lots of lights and colours and this kid in previous classes was never allowed to do that. Like, what are you doing? But Mum saw the benefit. Mum noticed that she was consuming the content or the curriculum, but she needed to be doing that. That was part of her creativity. It's part of her connection and understanding the world, or her world, and connecting it to, what she was doing in the moment. And so Mum allowed her to do it. And Mum would, see her sort of drift off or be watching something with, intense curiosity, and Mum would go, what are you looking at? She said, I just saw something in the sky. It was round and, it was zipping around, and then it just went whoosh and now it's gone. Or, she'd see her on the ground, like intensely staring at the grass, and Mum would be like, what's going on? This is obviously outside. And she'd be like, I'm just, talking to the ants. Just really, interesting things. And I just think how beautiful to see life through that lens, to be connected to your imagination in that way. And I know there will be people that are listening that goes, well, she is in another paradigm, or, and I'm open to all of that as well, or she saw an alien, or she must be one of the starseed kids, which I would, be open to agreeing with that as well. And I know that there's people that listen to Feel a Singer podcasts who will be like, well, that's a little bit, it's a bit nuts. And that's okay too. Like, it's just whatever realm of your understanding, or whatever your belief systems or values are, still take the message of connect to imagination. So whether it is connecting to a spiritual realm, or it is just connecting to, the meta, in our subconscious mind, however you want to perceive it, just do it. Because honestly, it just, like I said, and I know I'm just banging on now, but it just lifts us out of the shit. It really does. Lifts us out of that mundane feeling, and for no other reason than that, I mean, there are so many wonderful knock-on effects. I'm sure there is data to back up that it, decreases the cortisol levels in our body by injecting us with, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, all the feel-good chemicals. If we do get a dopamine hit, it's a positive, it's from something that's not going to harm us. And then we're in a much more elevated state to create. We are in that flow state that the creative scientist, or Skitchka Mahali spoke about. So there are those benefits, but don't do it for the sake of that. Just do it for the sake of it feels really lush and good, and gets you out of this 3D chaos that is called Earth sometimes. It's not always like that. Earth is beautiful, as we know. But, as we know through this existence, it has polarity. And so, but as that old saying goes, which wolf are you going to feed? So anyway, I'll leave you on that note. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes. And please subscribe. I'm on Spotify. You might be listening to this on Apple, or on my website, or YouTube, or Insta. Follow me for more content like this. I'm at Melithurus on Instagram, and at Feel a Singer on YouTube. And as always, if there's something in this episode that really resonates with you, and you'd like to share that with me, I'd love hearing from you. So please send me an email, hit reply to this, or send me a DM at Instagram or Facebook. I love hearing from you. And also if you have a question or an observation. All right, talk soon, and lots of love.